oh, well, you have this NFT, therefore you have 1 unit weight. Now, there's a few ways you can do this that can be very powerful. So, for example, if you have an NFT collection that's based on rarity, you could have voting proportional to rarity. So you assign numerical traits to each, numerical weights to each of the traits, right? And the more rare a trait is, the more weight that the person who owns that, the address that owns that NFT has, right? And that's one way you can do it. And that is less. It kind of falls under the same issues as a token DAO, because then, you know, the people who have the most influence have the most money, right? And you haven't actually done anything there, right? You've just taken a token DAO and just attached NFTs to it instead of having a governance token, which is all fine. Like, if you want a DAO that's run by whoever has the most money, then that will do what you need it to do. However, there are also other ways you can set it up. So my personal favorite way to set up NFT DAOs is NFT in combination with some kind of reputational status. So let's say we have an NFT DAO, right? And now we want to actually allow people who are more active in our governance to have more of a vote. So instead of just weighting it by rarity or weighting it like 1 NFT, 1 vote, what we do is we give you, there's certain actions you can take within the community that earn you reputation. So, for example, every time you send a Discord message, you get a little bit of reputation. Or every time you vote on something, you get a little bit of reputation. Obviously, you need to be very careful with what can earn reputation, because if it's farmable, it will get farmed. That is the bane of blockchain projects. But if you think about the incentives carefully and you put weights and preventions in place, you can make a reputational accrual method that is relatively farm resistant. So how is reputation measured? So reputation can be measured in literally any way you define it, right? Like, the space is so new that there aren't really accepted definitions of these various concepts. So how you want to measure reputation really depends on what you're trying to incentivize. So if you want to incentivize active voting, right, like everyone is voting for themselves very actively, then you would assign a lot of reputation to that action, right? If you're asking like physically how you measure the reputation, normally what I've done in the past when I've been setting up DAOs is the reputation token is a token. It's an ERC20 that's non-transferable that then the NFT owns. So instead of me transferring the reputation token to your address, it is transferred directly to your NFT. So your NFT actually owns that reputation. And then you can set it up such that that reputation, if you transfer your NFT, the reputation can either get reset, meaning that like whoever owns the NFT now doesn't get any of the reputation that comes with it, or you can make it such that the NFT owns the reputation in such a way where even if you transfer it, the NFT still owns that reputation. Obviously, again, you need to think about incentives with all of this stuff. Like, you need to really think carefully about what you're trying to encourage and what you're trying to incentivize with this. Just for context, for all the people who joined, we are not talking about Optimism DAO or the Optimism Retro PGF. We are in the events chat, just talking about NFTs and DAOs and how it all works and, you know, ways to set it up. So if you have any questions, come drop them in. Otherwise, I see that a bunch of you have filled out the very impromptu, informal survey about blockchain understanding, and it seems that everyone has like a basic, which is nice. So distraction boy, if you have any other questions, let me know and I'll answer them. Otherwise, I will just go on a rant about how blockchains work. Also, let me know if you guys are enjoying this, because I feel quite unhinged today, and like I just need a vibe check that this is not useless and you all hate me right now. So yeah. Digging it. Amazing. All right, great. That's honestly, I just need one. Fantastic. Bless. Thank you. Oh, I feel like a streamer. Maybe I should start streaming. All right, drum roll for distracted boy. Sorry, no pressure. Bless. No stress. Asking questions is hard. You gotta think through how to phrase them and all that kind of stuff. I am hyped today. I had my coffee machine broke, so I made a mocha pot, which is like effectively just espresso. I had a cup of espresso, so I'm buzzing. Yeah, so that's why I'm hyped right now. Is I had a cup of espresso, which is effectively like 4 cups of coffee, which is very much too much for how much caffeine I can actually handle. So I'm wondering what good it could do for the OP collective and why it would be worth for us to start moving on. So just to be clear, right, the OP collective and the way we want to set up so we have two governance houses in Optimism, right? We have the token house, which is the standard governance system that is live right now, where you can go and vote to give projects incentives, and like it's very plurocratic because if you buy tokens, you have more voting power, et cetera, is the one side. And then the other side is our retro PGF DAO, which I think we're calling the Citizens House. Yes, we're definitely calling it a Citizens House. Sorry. So the way our Citizens House NFT system is working is just a standard NFT DAO. Well, I say standard, none of this is really standard, but like a basic NFT DAO. So it's all of the citizens within the Citizen House will have an NFT, and they all have equal voting weight. And then anyone can nominate a project for Retro PGF, and then they can vote on it. And the way we're going to do voting is probably quadratic, but that's like an implementation detail, really, because the important thing is that each NFT has the same vote weight. And I don't think we're going to do any kind of reputational system initially. And the reason why we're not doing any complicated like reputational system or like, multi NFT weighted system for the governance, and even for our token house, our governance is pretty basic, is because we're trying to approach it with like a governance minimization framework, which means like if we don't have to put it on chain, if we don't have to make it enforced by a contract, we're not going to, because the less you enforce by contracts, the easier it is to iterate, to upgrade, the like faster you can iterate. It just makes it much easier for the system to be what would be the right word? Like agile and like able to react to situations. So yeah, so that's something that we've really considered a lot with the way we've designed both the token house and the citizen house, is like how easy can we make it for this to be upgraded? Because we know that we definitely haven't figured out how to do governance in like one go. We're definitely still like in the iteration and discovery phase, and we're definitely still trying to figure out like how we can do this best. And because we don't have all the answers, we definitely want to be very lenient in the way we set it up, such that we can change it as we need to, because we don't have all the answers. Okay. Do you get this a lot? I don't know the types of decisions a DAO should make, so I should leave the decisions to the experts. So this is actually a very interesting concept, and we get this not just from like people who are like, oh well, I'm just going to delegate my vote because I don't have the time or the resources to understand these decisions. But also in the sense that the actual delegates themselves are like, I'm not qualified to make a decision on this application. Like, I don't even know what they do. And like, that's not good, right? The delegates should know what they're voting on. So this is actually something we've been thinking about a lot. And an idea we've been toying with is the idea of subcommittees. So instead of every delegate voting on every application or every proposal, right? Because that's a lot of proposals for a lot of delegates, right? And not all of them are experts in everything. That's not like a reasonable expectation. So the way we've been thinking about solving this problem is through the idea of subcommittees. So instead of having every delegate vote on every decision, we split it up so that if a delegate has a specific knowledge base, so let's say they have a background in NFTs or a background in DeFi, then they would go into a subcommittee that focuses on just that area, right? So we would have a subcommittee for DeFi, a subcommittee for NFTs, a subcommittee for DAOs, a subcommittee for like ideally also a subcommittee for like accountability. So once you've been funded, are you actually using the funds for what you said you would? But that, I mean, that's a different topic. But the idea is to have these subcommittees such that people who have the most context around that specific like application style thing can make, sorry, that was a terrible way of phrasing that, can make the most informed decisions, right? So it is actually something we've been thinking about, is setting up subcommittees so that the people making the decisions have the most relevant information. It also does mean, though, that delegates are more likely to be in a situation where their biases might play out, right? Like, for example, if we have a delegate that has lots of background in DeFi, they probably own a bunch of different DeFi tokens, right? Which means they're much more likely in the DeFi bubble to have biases. And that's also something we're thinking very carefully of when we're like thinking of how we should set up these subcommittees if we're going to do them, is how do we ensure that delegate bias we're not like making it harder for delegates to have unbiased decisions, right? Or making it, and we want to make it really easy for delegates to admit bias and abstain from votes where they have bias in that thing. It's a very difficult balancing act. But we're definitely thinking about it quite carefully. So the OP Collective has a focus mission, smaller in scope, only the projects popping up to fund. That's a little easier for me to wrap my head around. Yet the subcommittee examples makes it easier to see the value in. The OP Collective is it was originally only like the collective idea was only meant to be in the Citizen House. So that term OP Collective is a bit like overloaded, and right now it doesn't mean anything concrete. I'm going to assume here that you're meaning by like the OP Collective is in like the whole governance system, like the Token House and the Citizens House. Yeah, you mean the OP community, right? So yeah, so both of those governance houses. So yeah, the OP Collective as a whole has a very like big and broad vision. It's trying to like solve public goods funding. It's trying to create the most like bulletproof L2. So it's a very big scope. And then the idea is that every time there's kind of like a split, like between the Token House and the Citizens House, for example, the mandates become more clear and specific, right? So it becomes more like focused. So the Tokens House is focusing on the ecosystem and the protocol, and the Citizens House is focusing on public good funding and public good allocation, right? So every time we split, we want it to become more clear what's happening, not less, right? So with the Token House, if we do split up into these subcommittees, it will become very obvious what each subcommittee's focus is. And that way we kind of prevent a lot of the like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing, I don't know how to start, like making it more clear and more clearly scoped makes the decision much easier, because it's like, oh, well, this isn't a DeFi project, therefore that subcommittee should not be voting on it. It just makes things much easier and cleaner to kind of understand and all that. I'm so glad I asked about this. Yeah, well, you caught me on a caffeine day, so let's go. Okay. What level of understanding do you have about the blockchain? Okay, so most of you said that you have a basic understanding. And some of you have a dev understanding, which is fantastic. Or was it fantastis? So, that means I don't necessarily need to explain to you guys how a blockchain works on the most simple level. So, or if you just joined there, if you scroll up in the chat, there's a little survey going on. Otherwise, you can just ask questions. I'm here for it. Okay, what's your opinion about someone holding a lot of voting power from a delegate and vote no to most proposals that will give some OP to them, like phase 1, phase 0? So, hold on. So you're saying, what if someone delegates? Okay, for the sake of this conversation's clarity, we're going to use a different word, because I can't use delegate and delegatee, because I will literally not be able to keep my own brain straight. So let's say if you delegate to someone, you are a delegate. And if someone is receiving your delegation, they're a governor, right? They're governing on your behalf, because then it's nice and clear. So Billy, I think what you're asking, and correct me in chat if I'm wrong, is you're asking if someone delegates to a governor and that delegate would receive money from the vote that the delegate's going to vote, that the governor's going to vote on, right? So if they would receive money and the governor votes no, is that bias? Is that your question? Because if that is your question, if like the delegate voting is I mean the delegation is biased, I don't think it necessarily counts as bias. It's more about the person making the decision and their biases, right? So if you guys all delegate to me and there is a proposal that comes up that's like, oh, we should fund the community, and I'm on that, I should not be allowed to vote on that because I am included in, or I directly or indirectly benefit from it, right? So that's a direct benefit. If I am directly listed as a recipient on a proposal, then I have bias and I can't vote on that, right? But I can also be indirectly benefiting from a proposal, right? So for example, let's say I own a fat stack of Maker, just because they've been in the spotlight a little bit, so it's top of mind. So I own a fat stack of Maker, right? And then there's a Maker proposal on the Optimism governance saying like, oh, we want to get some OP to go do incentives or whatever, right? I should not vote on that either because I am indirectly going to benefit from this, right? Because if they set it up such that it pumps the Maker price, I'm going to benefit, therefore I have bias against this. But bias is a really difficult thing to define, and we're still figuring out a system that will work in a robust way for like to handle bias, because it is a very tricky it's a very tricky thing, right? Because if I own like 0.0001 Maker, it's like $2 worth of Maker, does that count as bias? But if I own $100,000 worth, is that bias then? Like where do you draw the line? It's quite a difficult thing to put into a strict definition, Okay. How would a delegate know ahead of time how a governor would vote on something? We just got to reach out and ask. So that's a great question. It's really difficult if you delegate to a governor. How do you know what they're going to vote on something? How do you do you have to go research what they voted previously? And what if they've changed their mind about something? It's quite a difficult thing. So I think going forward, we're trying to encourage the delegates to kind of give their opinion before voting cycle starts so that you, as a delegate, can understand what your governor is going to do before they do it. But really, this is up to the individual governor. And if you don't like how your governor is handling how they're voting and handling their communication around it, you should definitely tell them. Or what's that adage? Vote with your dollars. So if you don't like the way your governor is talking about their voting ability, or not talking about their biases, or talking about how they're going to vote before they actually vote, you should tell them. And if they don't change their behavior, you should go and redelegate to a governor who meets your satisfaction in terms of how they communicate stuff, right? Because at the end of the day, it's your voting power that you're giving away. So you should be quite sure that the person you are delegating to is going to make decisions that you agree with. I also think structurally, there's a lot more we could do to accommodate this. So for example, something I've seen some DAOs do is if you delegate to someone else and they vote in a way that you disagree with, you are then able to override their vote. So if I delegate, so if I delegate 100 tokens to Mark, and then Mark goes and votes no on a proposal that I really thought should pass, then I would be able to undelegate my 100 from Mark and vote specifically on that one proposal with my 100. So Mark would still have all of the voting power that he's accrued from his other delegates, but he wouldn't have my 100, right? It would be removed from his pile just for that one vote. But this is, again, quite technically difficult to do. And we really want to keep our governance framework quite minimal. So the more complexity we add on voting and delegating and being able to override a vote and that kind of stuff, the more difficult it becomes to understand and to follow along with what's happening. But the more power it does put into the hands of the delegates. So it is something you need to think about quite hard before we do anything on chain for it. Okay, Haum. What if the weight of a vote was randomized? For example, each vote starts with a minimum vote weight of 1 and a maximum vote weight of 99. Through the act of voting, vote weight is randomized each time. The voter would not know the value of their vote until it is cast, meaning the weight of the vote for each participant would be random. If a voter was to change their vote, it would once again randomize. Something like this might already exist to some extent. So this is an interesting idea. I don't necessarily think it would work for the Optimism token governance. However, for things like I'm trying to think of a use case where you would want the voting population to have randomized power, right? Because in most of the cases with governance, you don't want them to have randomized power. You want it to be either weighted by their financial power, i.e. like a plurocratic government where it's like a token weighted governance, or you want it to be weighted by individuals, like a Sybil resistant thing, like, for example, the Citizen House. A randomized vote weight is actually a quite interesting concept. I don't think I've ever like fiddled with that idea. Let me noodle on it. We've got time, and I'll see if I can think of something. But that's a cool idea. I've actually never thought about doing anything like that. Okay, when voting power was snapshotted for each proposal, it's real time on Snapshot. So yes, Snapshot right now does not fully support Optimism. So for example, if you have a multi-sig, right now you can't vote on the Optimism governance with a multi-sig. They are working on fixing that. And additionally, we can't specify block times in the snapshots, which is why the snapshots are each real time, right? So you might have noticed recently that if you had vote power within a governance proposal, and then in the one, but you didn't in the other, and you transferred between, like, that can happen. So we are talking with them now to get them, and this will also be fixed by Bedrock, which is like the biggest update to NEL2 coming in a while still. I think it's scheduled for this year, but like don't hold me to that timeline. So yeah, so because of the way the Optimism blocks work and the fact that we don't have consistent block time, and on top of that, Snapshot not fully supporting Optimism as a chain, it does mean that our proposals are not all taken at the exact same block, meaning that your delegate power might be different between the different things. And that is why I'm sure you guys have seen some, like, if you go in and look on the snapshot, you can see that the snapshot times are not all the same for all of them. Although I did try and make them like as fast as I could physically click the button, there was still some time difference between them. And then we also had, I think it was 3 proposals that came in late or didn't quite meet the deadlines that we added late, and they had a much later snapshot time than the other ones. Well, much later. It was like an hour. Yeah. Thank you, TP. You're doing... I really appreciate that. I realized we have a translation bot set up in the rest of the server, but I couldn't translate in this chat because it's not a real chat. It's just the call chat. Oh yeah, by the way, this is not actually meant to be a demo day. I mean, not meant to be an AMA, it's meant to be a demo day. But here we are having an AMA anyway, because we had some technical difficulties. So if you have any questions, you can drop them in the chat. There's lots of people going on there. Otherwise, we actually have an actual demo day. I mean, oh, Jesus. An actual office hours next week intended for questions. This is a free-for-all. This is a bonus AMA. So definitely drop some questions in chat. We also have a snap. Wow, I'm struggling today. We have a Twitter space later with Anchor. You guys should definitely come check it out. It's gonna be sick. Sick. I'll drop it in chat. Oh, we're also doing jam sessions on Fridays. You guys should come. It's actually a lot of fun. We just sit quietly. No one's talking. And we just listen to sick beats. Anyone can suggest songs, so it's not just me being DJ. Although if you do suggest some whack shit, I might cancel it. But generally everyone can suggest. Yeah. Do we have a recording of today? No, because this was just my unhinged caffeine ramblings. But yeah, if you want something to be recorded, generally let me know. Normally the demo days are recorded, but because we had some technical difficulties today, this is not being recorded. It's just unhinged rambling. How about the New York event? So excited. Oh, so the New York event I think was last week. So yeah, that was the ETH NYC and then NFT NYC. We had a bunch of people from the team go, so if you were there, I hope you got to catch us at the booth. I didn't get to make it. Massive FOMO, but it's fine. I'll be I'll be at the next one. But yeah, apparently it was a great event. So definitely, yeah. I will try like accommodate the events more in the Discord, just make it more obvious when we're gonna be anywhere. So for all y'all international jet setting nomads, you can come say hi. Yeah. The Hugh Fridays. Yeah. Hugh, my man, dancing around. I don't know what that is. That looks like I'm assuming that's from the NFT NYC event, and that I'm just not cool enough to understand the reference. Um, I need Optimism merch very soon. Me too, my man. Like, I work for Optimism and I just have a hat, okay? And like one cool long sleeve shirt. So I feel your pain. Oh, and the bag. The bag was really nice. The bag was great. It's a good shopping bag. It's a great grocery bag. Yeah, we definitely need more merch. It's a very interesting thing to set up. Especially with international shipping. God, supply chain issues right now. Yeah, we could send you something. It might just take like 2 months, but you know, the struggle is real. Mongolian axe slayers. Is that what that is? I mean, that's a cool looking coinish thing. Pretty intense though. Axe slayers. Not even axe throwers. Damn. Heavy metal plus throat singing. That actually sounds pretty cool. I'll give it a shot in the Friday jam days if you guys come and remind me that I said I would. We can try out throat singing. That actually sounds pretty cool. Is it like oh? Sorry, that was terrible. But that was my attempt at throat singing. Yep. Okay, that's sick. Drop a link. Drop a link. I'll listen to it afterwards. That's cool. Come on, y'all. Questions? Seriously, like someone was asking earlier, distraction boy, you were asking about like creating a DAO. Come on, guys. I'm sure you have questions. This is a judgmental free space where no question is dumb or stupid or silly. Like I'm just here to answer whatever you got going on. Like seriously. And I have no issue spending the next. Oh my God, it's already been almost. Oh my God, it's been 40 minutes. Wow. I am happy to spend the next 10 minutes explaining like something super fundamental or like basic or anything like that. Like, let's go. The throat singing is deeper, but yes, you got the gist. Yeah, I can't, yeah, my vocal cords don't go much lower than this. This is peak lowness. Yeah. Oh, bless. Did we get more answers on that survey? Okay. Great session. Sorry if this hasn't already been covered. Are there any updates on the ecosystem funding for dApps being built on OP? If you're talking about the first round of funding, or are you talking about like new, like if you're a dApp and you want to get funded? Because if you're talking about the first round of funding, I believe we are busy collecting all the information from the various projects who successfully got funded so that we can distribute the funding. But as a new project looking for funding, the best bet you have is to deploy and start getting usage, because that way, if you come onto the governance proposal and you say, okay, so the best thing you can do is deploy, like right now, and start getting people to use your application. Then coming onto the governance proposal, governance platform, creating a proposal saying what you want OP, how much OP you want, what you want it for, and how you're going to use it. And generally, the more information you can give, the better, right? So the more specific you can be about like, oh, well, this is why we're going to incentivize this user group, and this is how much we're going to give them, and this is the expected result of giving them this OP, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, getting deployed, being very specific in your proposal. And those are two of the things you can do that will by far give you the best chance of making it through governance and actually getting funded. Okay, so you guys are 3 weeks out from deploying. Yeah, so if you're already like most of the way there on building it, definitely build it, deploy it, and then ask for funding. Okay, how can we not be worried about someone taking our idea if we post a potential project we want to get funding for? And is there a template we can use to start with this for a proposal? That is a great question. So I tend to hear this question most from people who've just entered the Web3 space from Web 2. Because in Web 2, it's a big problem, right? If you post an idea, you don't want someone to steal it. The reality of it in Web 3 is if it's a really good idea, so someone probably might have already done it, and you should definitely check that first. But the second thing is that, like, most of the time, the idea is not the hard part. If you have a really great idea about something you want to build, that is not the hard part. Having an idea is the easy part. It's actually going out and building it that's the hard part, right? So even if you lay out a step-by-step process of how you're going to build this thing, what you're going to do, what you're going to like, who you're going to hire, all that kind of stuff, no one is going to steal it because everyone else has their own ideas that they think are fantastic that they're going to go build. Second of all, it's Web3, baby. That shit's collaborative. If you have a great idea and someone wants to steal it, like, chances are they're not going to steal it. They're going to message you and be like, I think this is a really good idea. Can I help you build it? And then look at that. Now you have a team. You know, like you got to come at it with a different mindset. You've got to come at it with that collaborative mindset, because otherwise we're no better than Web 2 and we should all just, then we've already lost. You've got to come at it with that collaborative mindset. Like if your idea is that good, that's how you attract a team. That's how you get people to invest in your idea. That's how you start building a community. So keeping a project idea in private because you're scared people are going to steal it is only hurting you and people who would join your team because they don't get to hear about your idea beforehand, right? Or worse still, you think you have a great idea, and I'm guilty of this. I've done this before when I first joined the space. I thought I had like the next killer app. I was like, oh my God, I've fixed blockchain. Like the UX is fixed. And I thought this idea was so great. I was paranoid that people were going to steal it, so I didn't like post it anywhere. I didn't ask for help because I was like, no. I don't want anyone to steal my idea, right? And then I finally, all by my lonesome, built like a prototype and I put it out there. And this was like back like early 2018. It was like mid-bear. It was like the worst time to launch something. Well, this specific thing. Anyway, and I put it out there and people were like, I don't need this. I absolutely do not need anything like this. And they like everyone hated it. It was a terrible idea because I kept it private for so long that I got so set in my idea of that, oh, people are going to need this, like it's essential, that I never actually asked anyone like, hey, do you actually need this? And I ended up spending like 4 months building something that no one wanted or needed. So building in public has so many benefits beyond just attracting a team and talent. But it also allows you to like validate that your idea is in fact a good idea before you invest the time and effort into making it real. So I cannot propone more to building in public. Yeah, sorry, it was quite a ramble, damn. Okay. I would assume the items of mass importance is how specifically the funds would be used, but sometimes we don't really know ahead of time exactly how they'll be used. Yeah, so okay, that's a good point. Like sometimes you can't really know exactly how it's going to be used ahead of time. So I think in that case, what you want to do is in your proposal, you want to specify the intent of how you're distributing it, right? So you might not know exactly like the percentages or the user groups or the people that you're going to give it to, but you could say like in the proposal, oh, the idea is that we're going to distribute this to this this user group that we think is going to come because, they're going to be the ones who make it the most. And like, I'm not explaining this very well, but you want to express your reasoning behind how you're going to do it if you don't know exactly how you're going to do it, right? So instead of giving the specifics, give the motivation behind why. Though I do think it will be much harder to get that through governance because you don't have the specifics, but it's not impossible. It would just be more difficult, and you would have to really convince the delegates before it went up for voting. But generally, the more specific you can be, the better. And if you can't be more specific, explain it more clearly, like really, really get into the whys. Damn. I spoke for like 54 minutes. Intense. Oh, I hope you guys are enjoying this. This is just, yeah. Oh. So that's another reason why it's so important to speak to others about your idea. They may have input into what you will need down the road or know of a better solution. Exactly. And also, like, on top of that, the Web3 space is so massive and there are so many people building so many things that the more people you talk to about your idea, the more likely someone is to be like, oh, well, have you heard of X project? They're doing almost the exact same thing. And then you're like, oh, wow, I didn't realize that. And, chances are if the idea is close enough, you could just go and ask them if you can join their team. Like, hey, look, I had almost the same idea. I think it's a really good idea. I would love to understand how you're executing it and like maybe join and help you make this real. Right? You got to come at it with that Web3 mentality of like, it's all of us together and not this Web2, oh, but it's my idea. I want to build it. I don't care if someone else is doing it similar to me because I can do it better, because that's not the right attitude. And you will not make it very far if that's, Nagami, if that's your attitude. You got to come at it with like collaborative, supportive, we're all in this together. We're all going to like make something incredible together, because at the end of the day, God, what else are you here for? To boost your ego? Lame. Like you got to be here to leave the world in a better spot than you found it. That's the goal. At least that's my goal. But I would hope that's an optimistic value that a lot of us share, Exactly. OP smile. It was great having you, Distraction Boy. Hope to catch you around. Oh, yes. Thank you, Billy. Oh, my God. What a good call out. We are actually running a whole ass meme competition right now. And it's super incredible. It's specifically about our governance. So you should go check out the YouTube video about it. Oh, my God. Have I posted that? Whoops. Okay. I'll post that now. You should go check out the YouTube video that I will post the link to now. And go make a meme about optimism governance. Specifically anything optimism governance or PGF related. So the public goods funding related stuff. No token price, no market discussion memes. Those are cool and funny, but not for this. I also actually have a meeting in 3 minutes and I need to go get more water and maybe take a power nap or something. I don't know what to do about this caffeine. It was great sitting and shit talking with you guys. I hope you had as much fun as I did, because I had a blast. And I will catch you guys at the Anchor Twitter space that's happening in a few hours. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, like 4 hours. Yes, I did just count on my fingers. The Anchor's Twitter space in 4 hours. I did drop the link in the chat, but I will drop it again just in case you didn't see it. And I hope you had a good time. I'll see you at the Anchor Twitter space. Otherwise, Friday jam sessions for Mongolian throat singing. Very excited for that. I will leave you guys with some intro music, just in case you're bored or anything. because I know a whole bunch of you just seem to hang around in this channel. So without further ado, cheers.